Hello, 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 and welcome to So Vintage Glam. This is my first live video here today, and I am here to talk about something very, very important, really, which is mental health awareness. It's the week for that this week. You'll see the details in the description, and yeah, it's one of those things where um, we all have different times when things might be a bit more challenging than others, but there is a lot that we can do. And I've been on quite a journey, and I wanted to just share and see, talk it through, and and just see what else might be happening for you as well. So please, if you're watching live, put hashtag live in the chat so I know people are there. And if you're watching the replay, just comment hashtag replay, and then I know that you have been. So please do interact. I'm going to go through a series of kind of prompts, so to speak, some questions and things. The theme for this year's Mental Health Awareness Week is community. And by the way, I would like to say a thank you to Jenny from Virtual Sewing Room. She pulled together myself and herself and another couple of vloggers. So we've got Sisters of Stitchcraft and Let's Sparkle with Sam. So we are all vlogging this week on this topic. So it's really interesting this focus of community, especially because it was Jenny from Virtual Sewing Room, which is a sewing community, that that kind of prompted all of this. Oh, hello, we've got Yvette from Stash Hub joining as well, and also Angelica. Now I'm trying to remember, how do I? Oh, here we are. Ta-da! Yay! It's a long time since I've live streamed. So just remembering how to do it. So hi, Angelica. Oh, thank you very much. Yes, this is my new setup here. Some of you will know, and apologies for delays in my other sewing videos on this channel, because I've been decorating this room and it was a bit of a nightmare, to say the least. But the great thing is I can use it for business, and then I just put some nice fabrics and my lovely vintage picture. And so that just helps to kind of make it a bit more sewing like. So because sewing and videoing in my sewing room is a bit challenging for logistical reasons, but also because my stash, wonderful as it is, and as much as I love looking at it, it's kind of really messy on camera. But you'll see more of that, because I'll be on Stash Hub actually in June. It is, isn't it? I think it's the end of June. I'll be appearing on that. So hello, Kathy. Nice to see you here as well, Clara Clementine. So I've got a question for you. What does community mean to you? Now, I know for me that the sewing community it's been a big part of my sewing, and I don't know if I would enjoy sewing as much without it. Now, I am an extrovert, so I do like to interact with people. So that's quite, key. Hello, Jenny. Your ears must have been burning. I was just talking about you before. So we're just talking about community and what does that actually mean. So I think, because I have a number of different communities. So I've got my business community. I'm part of a business referral group. I go networking every Wednesday. It's great. Gets me out of the office. I mean, when I'm delivering workshops and things, then yes, I'm at clients' premises or hotels or venues. But a lot of the time I'm here at my desk and I can easily spend, a couple of days without interacting with other people. No, I would interact with people online, but it's not always the same, is it? And I think without having a community, it can get quite lonely. And I think for me, I was very lucky in that I started sewing by having lessons. They were one-to-one lessons. So I had that interaction, I had that support there. And then when COVID hit, that stopped. And I think not long after that, the Weekender the Fold line did the Weekender online. Now, I had never been to an in-person one. I know, Jenny, I saw on your video that you had been to the in-person one. Um, so yeah, it's that thing of, that was brilliant to me because I was already used to doing things on Zoom and online video. So I wasn't, it was very familiar to me. So to be able to kind of tap into an online community in that way, it was brilliant. And then I don't know what the timing was when Jenny set up Virtual Sewing Room or when I started. I'm not very good with dates, by the way. That's a level of detail. It's just kind of, yeah, some time ago. So when Jenny started the Virtual Sewing Room, that then has created a community. And I think it's something that I really, really value. And it was interesting, actually, because I've been so busy with the office and some other things going on in my business, I haven't been as active in that community as I normally would be. And I have felt the difference. So it was quite interesting. I had a social for my business networking and just a couple of things that happened where I got to interact with other people. And it just made me go, yes, I have to make sure for my mental health that I am taking part in things in community, online and in person. So I think it needs to be a mix of both, really. So that's kind of what community means to me. I'd love to know, what does it mean to you? Oh, and thank you, Yvette. She said it's 11th of June. All right, it's not as far at all. That's only a few weeks away. So yes, I will be joining Yvette on her stash chats on the 11th of June. So thank you for sharing that. So I think for me, in terms of how quickly I get into a community, I tend to just go all in because I'm that kind of person, and and I will be there and I will be present and I will take part and I will ask questions and share things where I can and help people out, because that's how I like to do it. Now, for other people who maybe are more introverted, they might be slower to kind of, to do more observing first, and that's absolutely fine, before they actually kind of get to know people. And I think the interesting thing about that as well is sometimes, perhaps for me, I've got involved in things and then I'm a little bit in. I don't do this so much now, but I think in the past, I would get into a community and then realize, wait a minute, there's some negative aspects here that I'm not really enjoying. So it's actually probably not a bad thing to take your time in some respect and get to know people and get to understand, what is going on. So I used to do acting. So I kind of was acting semi-professionally. I only sang semi-professionally. I did get paid to act. It just, living in, north of Manchester, didn't happen all that often. So I was running my business and I was acting as well. And so there were a few times where I was involved in some kind of production. So that becomes its own little community. And I remember one particular time, the person who was kind of the, producer of this particular production, I don't want to say any more details than that, and they definitely had some mental health issues, and that was negatively impacting everybody who was involved. And it was interesting. I remember the first time that I met them, I came home to my husband, Steve, and I said, well, this person is either a genius or there's something really not quite right about them and I haven't quite made up my mind. So I did definitely see some early signs. So, and not too long into the project was like, okay, yeah. Now we did it, we made the film. I don't even know what happened with it, to be honest, because I was acting in it. But it was one of those things that I kind of removed. They wanted me to be more involved in the project than just acting. So I helped cast a few people and they wanted me to be involved in, film, festival submissions, that kind of thing. But because of the way they were behaving, they were very erratic. I was just like, no. And this is the thing, isn't it? Like whoever's the key person or key people in a community, they can have a real impact on what is going on. And I think, acknowledging that somebody may have mental health issues is not an excuse not to protect yourself, and your own mental health as well. So I think that is quite key. So that's probably the only negative really that I've had in terms of being part of a community. I think the vast majority of my experiences have been really, really good. Um, so in terms of my own mental health, I think most of you now will probably know me as someone who is happy pretty much like most of the time. I am an optimistic person. I tend to be cheerful. I was not always this way. So many years ago, I was very very unhappily married. Not to Steve. That was in my first marriage. Very unhappily married. I was very, very stressed with work. I was working in marketing agencies, like a lot of hours, a lot of stress. I spent 5 years during that period doing a business degree part time. So that was 2 night classes a week, plus the study outside of that as well. And yeah, I went through quite a tough time, particularly around, myself and my ex-husband splitting up. And in fact, I remember having a conversation with one of my friends then, and I lived over in Leeds. Elaine, if you ever watch this, thank you very much for your help. But my friend Elaine, she said to me, I said, I was feeling down, and she said, well, I think you should go to the doctor and get some antidepressants. And I was really, because of some stuff in my childhood, I was like, no, I did not want to be doing that. And she was like, Una, it's just temporary. So what I did was I went to the doctor and I said, well, I want to have some counselling, and can I have some antidepressants in the meantime? And what I did was it took 3 months for me to get the counselling on the waiting list. And the day I started, actually my prescription ran out and I just didn't refill it. So, I have been there where I got some support and help with that. And I was very lucky actually that not only did I have that experience and that counselling helped me to kind of get to the next level, but then I got exposed to coaching and other kinds of personal development. And that sent me on a whole other trajectory. I remember the first session I had in the counselling, he said, why are you here? And I said, well, I feel like if my life was a house of cards, I feel like it's just all been blown over and it's just in pieces. And I need to rebuild that house, but with a solid foundation that isn't going to happen again. And he said, oh, that's very brave. And I was like, I don't feel brave. I just don't feel like I have a choice. I couldn't carry on the way that I was. So those got me those first few steps, and then getting involved in personal development, eventually training as a life coach, and I now work as a business coach. But I take a very holistic approach, and I have mindset people who practitioners who work with my clients, and that's the work that I've had. I still have coach mindset sessions with my coach Vicky, and I've been working with her on and off now for 17 years. So, for me, I could have taken the approach of, okay, I've solved that issue now and just got on with life as normal. But my attitude is I want to keep growing. I want to keep improving my life, keep improving my mental health. So, and because of that, I've invested a lot of time and money in, and actually at times when I could not afford it, I put this kind of stuff on credit cards. I'm not saying you should do that. That's just what I did, and I'm glad I did because it helped me get to where I am now. And yeah, so my attitude is keep going, because and keep learning and keep growing. People talk about a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, and I definitely have got a growth mindset. Now, I didn't used to be like that. Back in the day when I was very miserable and stressed, and if someone had talked to me then that let alone becoming a coach, that I would actually have coaching and do personal development. I would have thought that they were nuts. I probably shouldn't say that word, should I, on a Mental Health Awareness Week broadcast. I was someone who was very cynical and very sarcastic, and I was just unhappy, basically. So, if you're relating to any of those negative things that I've talked about, I want you to understand it can change. You can change. You can change your circumstances. And there are some circumstances that maybe you can't change. However, you can change how you think and how you feel about them. And what's really key, in my experience, is being able to get to those underlying patterns. And that has made such a change for me. I haven't talked about sewing yet, really, have I? So how has sewing made a difference for me? Well, it's made a difference for me in a few ways, actually. I think one is, I decided to stop doing the acting. I just kind of, I don't know, I just didn't have that need or drive to do it anymore. And I really enjoyed what I did. I had fantastic fun, loved it, learned a lot about myself. It was great. And actually that was interesting because I had done this personal development. Like when I was going to classes, when I was going to auditions, it was a lot easier for me because I was able to handle, I didn't take the rejection personally. If I didn't get a part, I was just like, okay, no problem. And especially having done some casting, I know that the slight little things are just like, instantly that person doesn't have the right look or the right tone in their voice or whatever it might be. Like there's real subtle nuances in the selection of people for that. So I knew that. And I was able to not take things personally. And also, one of the things acting people tell you a lot is when you're going for auditions is to be yourself. Now that if you're not in the world of acting, that might sound a bit weird. Like, aren't you supposed to be the character? You are, yet you're supposed to bring yourself to that character. And if you don't really know who you are, it's kind of hard to do that. Or if there's some aspects of emotion that you find you can't get there. And for some people, it's the positive emotions. And for some people, it's the negative emotions. It's almost like they're afraid to get there because will they be able to let it go? Will they be able to extract themselves from that? And so actually having worked on my mindset, my mental health actually really helped with all of that. But when the acting time was over and I was kind of just going about my life, and the reason why I started sewing was because of getting into vintage style and not being able to find the clothes that I wanted. Someone suggested that I start sewing. And I went out immediately from that conversation into my car and looked up, learned to sew in my local area, found Sharon, my teacher, and booked a lesson. And the rest is history. Yet what has kind of come out of that for me is when I'm sewing, I'm in flow. And so flow is that, that state of being when you're really focused and engrossed in what you're doing. You're typically having fun and you lose track of time, and you're not self-conscious. Like when people are in flow, there's none of that nit that they might have. They're not worried about anything because they're focused in the present moment. And I think that's one of the big lessons. I learned many big lessons over the years, but one of them has definitely been being present, not being in the past and regretting or being angry or resentful, and not being in the future and being worried or anxious. When you actually are in the present moment, that is when your mental health will be at its best for sure. So I think when I'm sewing, I'm in flow and I'm feeling that. Now, obviously, at times things go wrong and I might get frustrated or angry, like anybody does. But it doesn't last. And I think that's one of the other things about really looking after your mental health and doing whatever work you need to do to be able to let go of things. Like if I get angry about something, I get angry about what's in front of me right now, and boom, it's gone. I'm not holding on to it. Yet in the past, when I had all those negative patterns going on, if something made me angry, I would be steaming for hours or days even, not necessarily because it wasn't what was going on then. It was the past that was I was being triggered. So yeah, I think sewing has helped me to be able to spend time in flow and to switch off from my business. Now I love my business. I love working with business owners and helping them to grow their business, to grow their teams, to be in flow in their business. I do a lot of stuff around that using personality profiling, and helping them to grow a business, to help them to get exit ready. Okay, help them to grow a business that's profitable, that's fun to run, and when the time is right, they actually have an asset that is valuable, right? So that's what I focus on in my business, and I love it. And at the same time, I need to not work at times. I need to give myself breaks. And so sewing really does that for me. And one of the things I found is a lot better than the acting side of things is I can do it myself. I'm not dependent on there being a class at a particular time or me going for auditions or whatever it might be. I don't have that. I can just sew. Just me, my machine, that's all I need. And obviously fabrics and things and patterns, plenty of those. So I think that's really key. And being in flow in that way, whether it's sewing or knitting or some other kind of creative pursuit, allows our brains to switch off. That allows us to become more creative as well, by the way, because part of the creative process is you've got some kind of stimuli, and then things need to mull over. They call it the illumination phase, and then you have your kind of more concrete ideas, or what is that actually going to look like. But there needs to be that period in between. And interestingly, how many times have you had ideas in the bath or the shower or when you're out for a walk? It's not when you're actually thinking about the thing. You're switched off. So I think sewing really allows us to do that. And now, of course, with Instagram and Facebook, we have these communities. So I already mentioned about Jenny and the virtual sewing room. Stash Hub also has its own community as well. I'm, as you know, if you're watching this channel and you know me, I'm a big fan of Gertie and Sharon Patterns. So she has the Gertie Sew and Tell group on Facebook. And then if you're one of her Patreon members, there's also a Discord that you can be a part of as well. And just the help and support that is offered in the sewing community is tremendous. I just think it's absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I think that is really key. One of the other prompts was around how do you re-find your sojo if you're having a mental block? And I see that come up again and again and again. I think I've got two things to say to that. One is rest. If I know for me, I've had times in the last month or so where I had the time to sew, but I just didn't have the bandwidth. And I had to be okay with not doing a video, not sewing something, and just maybe sitting and watching a bit of telly with my husband, or having an early night, or getting on the phone to my sister, or whatever it might be. And just not putting pressure on myself to achieve. Okay, I think that's really key. And I know the times when I've lost my sojo is either when something major is going on in my life or business, or when I've overdone it. So maybe like when I've gone to the dressmaker's ball. I've not been in a couple of years. Maybe I might get to go this year. We'll see. But oh my God, I just sewed and sewed and sewed trying to get my outfit finished for when I went to the dressmaker's ball. And I just didn't want to sew for, it was probably only a couple of weeks afterwards. But, I lost my sojo because I'd been overdoing it. So just be kind. That's what I think helps. And then the other thing that I find really helps, and this is where Stash Hub comes in, and I will put a link It's not in now, but I'll put a link in after this live that you can get I think it's a free month, or it's definitely a free trial of Stash Hub Plus. So go and do that. It's great. It's a great tool, and I will take my Stash Hub and I will be looking at it, and I will be looking at the fabrics I've got and the patterns I've got, and so this is what it looks like here, and I'll look at my projects, and yes, there is a lot of projects there. Not all the fabrics are on. So Yvette, you have to come to my house and help me get all my fabrics onto Stash Hub. So I find planning really helps. And even when I already have a plan, to kind of re-plan or get into it in a bit more detail, or maybe just come up with some other ideas, just put some things together, but without any pressure of actually doing it. So just for me, I find that really helps. Now, for someone else, that might be really stressful, but I like to have lots of things on the go. So that suits me really, really well. So yeah, I think that's really cool. In terms of another question was, how do I, what helps me through bad days or times of mental health? And I think one of the things that helps is actually, it's almost like if you imagine snow and you imagine a rock in that snow, it really stands out, doesn't it? And for me, that's like my mental health. Now, in the past, it was probably like a pebble beach with all the kind of crap that I was dealing with. So for me now, I spot things pretty fast. It doesn't take me long to realize, whoa, wait a minute, what you're thinking, what you're doing, or what you're not doing. And so it's rare that it would take me more than a few hours to figure out something's going on. And depending on what it is, then I will either kind of utilize some of the tools I have, or I might book a mindset session. And this is the thing, I think, I didn't find asking for help easy years ago. And that's something I had to really overcome. And yeah, so I think that's one of the things. In terms of signs, like, do you have signs when you realize you're not okay? Eating badly is definitely one. Not looking after myself, working too hard. Or the other one I've noticed is I'll start reading a novel, and then I read several novels in a row, and then I'm doing that instead of doing the things that I actually really want to do. And I think it's because I think a lot of the time, actually, when we're not okay, we tend to consume, don't we? So I can consume too much television, consume books, I think just not pay attention. And ironically, today has been a busy day when I haven't given myself enough breaks. So I did have a break mid-morning, because I got up and I started early. I actually had a client call early, which is unusual for me. I really wanted to get out for a walk, and I haven't done it. I might even go for a walk when I finish doing this, actually. So I'd love to know for you, like, what do you do when you've lost your soju? What do you do when you're experiencing poor mental health? How, do you recognize those signs? Do you know what to do? So, because I've now that I've recognized those things, I can stop myself. I can, I can take some action. And occasionally there might be a bit of resistance to that, but I'll get there. I'll get there in the end. And, I think we've got to look at the journey of it. Hang on one second, I want to get something. So I haven't figured out where I'm going to put this in my office yet, but I like this. Happiness is not a destination, it's a way of life. And, for some people it might be, well, oh, wow, if I could only get to that some of the time, that would be great. But actually, it's not, it is about the journey. And I know that might sound a bit trite, but if you take the approach of, I'm learning and I'm growing, I'm failing forward, every bad situation that happens, every bad thing that happens in life is an opportunity to learn and grow. Even if it takes a bit for you to get through it and get to the other side. And I think if you take that, I know for me, that has helped me to be a lot more content and a lot happier. And, you know, from the dark days, and they were quite dark days back then, to where I am now. And bear in mind, you know, it's been 2 decades. So now I've, you know, it's not taken 2 decades. Like, I've been like this for quite a long time. And it improves. It keeps improving. And I think that's because probably having the courage to ask for help opened doors that led to other open doors. You know, it's like when you're standing at the beginning of a corridor and there's doors on either side as you go down the corridor, but you don't even see the doors when you're back here. It's only when you actually move forward do you actually see those doors. So I would say just take a step in the right direction. Take a step towards you taking better care of yourself, of, you know, letting go in whatever way you choose to do that. Yeah, just keep moving forward. I think that would probably be the thing for me. So I hope that has been helpful for you. Now, if you are experiencing poor mental health, in the description there is a load of resources. So thank you, Jenny, for sharing those with us. And please, please, please ask for help. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. Only the brave will ask for help. Only the brave will, you know, look to do or think or be a bit different than they were in the past in order to improve their life, their mental health. So thank you. I'm seeing some thumbs up there. So yeah, please be mindful as well of other people. When you see people who are probably acting out or maybe disappearing on you, reach out, just send them a message, you know, give them a quick call and just check in. Are they okay? Sometimes when people are struggling, that's unfortunately when they're the least likely to ask for help. So sometimes they might need somebody to kind of, you know, reach out to them instead. And they may or may not open up. But do you know something that's really interesting? If you sense that somebody is not okay and you go, hey, you okay? And they go, yeah, I'm fine. Ask it 2 more times. Really, are you okay? Yeah. I guarantee you, 3rd time, if they're not okay, they will say something. Okay, typically, that's what will happen. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up. I'd love to know what you've thought of what I've shared here. I know I've got a bit personal, but hey, that's okay. That's I'm just being who I am, and I think at the end of the day, that is all that we can do. We're all wonderfully unique. We all are on our own path, and please, please, please don't compare your chapter 57 to someone else's chapter, or your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 57. We're all at different stages, and you know, I've been in the personal development world now for, oh gosh, I mean, I've been in my own business coaching for 22 years. So I must have been probably 3 years before that I found coaching and personal development seminars, and probably another few years before that I did the counselling. So it's gone back a long time, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to go now. I keep saying I'm going to go and then saying something else. That's the joy of lives, isn't it? That, you know, things can kind of come off. So, right, let me know what you think. And by the way, somebody said they couldn't make it and they asked, was I going to be doing lives regularly? And it's one of the things I have toyed with is perhaps doing some sewing lives where I'm just like sewing and chatting. Is that something that you would enjoy? If so, pop me yes, more lives in the comments, and yeah, we'll see. Okay, bye for now. Have a lovely rest of your day.